college football week 5 predictions. There are 3 top 10 matchups this week. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, getting into the games from order which they are played. First game we have Stanford Washington, one of the top 5 matchups. Um, I've really been a big critic for Washington. They've played very well in all four of the games, but I want to see them actually beat somebody big before I pick them. So I think I'm gonna stick with Stanford, and I think it'll be a really close game though. I'm not sure if Washington's gonna live up to the hype in this game. Next game, I got Notre Dame versus Syracuse. Notre Dame's not living up to their expectations this season, and Syracuse, I figured I'd put this game in because Syracuse has a really good quarterback in Eric Dungy. But I think Notre Dame's too good of a team to lose to Syracuse, even though they're 1-3 right now. Next game we have Texas and Oklahoma State. I really think Texas is a little bit overrated. Oklahoma State lost a really bad game against Central Michigan and then lost to what looks to be a pretty good Baylor team last week. I think I'm gonna stick with Oklahoma State playing at home to get the win in this matchup. Next game we have Miami, Florida, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I picked last week to upset Clemson, but that didn't happen. And Miami, Florida now has Mark Richt, and Mark Richt at Georgia had Tech's number pretty much every year. And Georgia Tech even had like a losing streak to Miami for a few years, I believe, at time span. So Mark Richt at Miami, Miami easy pick. Who knows? I think it'll be a close game still. Then we have Navy versus Air Force. I figured I'd just put this game in there because both teams are 3-0. Navy hasn't really beaten teams too convincingly, like barely coming up with wins over UConn or Tulane. Air Force it's looked okay. I haven't watched too much of them. I think they just beat Utah State, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going with Air Force in this one. Next game, Tennessee versus Georgia. Georgia's been really disappointing lately. Last week they just got destroyed by Ole Miss. Tennessee finally broke their streak against Florida. I think Tennessee is going to continue to win, stay undefeated. We'll be 5-0 after this week. Then we have North Carolina and Florida State. Now, Florida State just got whomped by Louisville a few weeks ago. Even after they were really hyped up in the preseason. And UNC lost to Georgia, but it looks pretty good since offensively. I'm actually going to go for the upset. I just think Mitch Trubisky's going to find an upset somewhere, and I think Florida State would be a good team to upset. I'm not a big fan of Florida State this year. Anyways, they led up 35 points to South Florida, and I think UNC could easily put up 50 if that's what they're letting South Florida put up. Next game, Wisconsin versus Michigan, another top 10 matchup. Wisconsin has really surprised this year with their wins over LSU and Michigan State. And Michigan, I think we all knew they were going to be pretty good this year, with Jim Harbaugh coming into his second year. I think Wisconsin is actually going to push Michigan really tough. But I think Michigan's going to come out with a win. Wilton Speight will have a pretty good game. He's looked pretty good so far for Michigan. I think he'll continue the streak. Next game, I got Kansas State versus West Virginia. Now, I haven't watched many of both of these teams, but I watched Kansas State lose to Stanford 26-13, I believe. And then West Virginia. They beat Missouri and BYU in a few games. West Virginia's also undefeated. I think Kansas State is going to knock them off the undefeateds. Next game, I have Texas A&M, South Carolina. Could have easily put Florida Vandy here, but I figured I like this matchup a little better, but I don't think this matchup will really be that close. I'm gonna go with Texas A&M. Next matchup, Oklahoma versus TCU. Oklahoma's in a big hole after 2 losses to Houston and Ohio State. Now TCU has 1 loss to Arkansas. But I think TCU and Kenny Hill is going to get it rolling. I think Oklahoma's going to fall into an even bigger hole. I don't know. I just have a bad feeling for Oklahoma in this game. So I'm rolling with TCU. Next game, Utah versus California. Utah, another undefeated team right now. Hasn't really looked too good to me, but they've been just good enough to get by in their games. I think they have a new task versus Cal that they're going to run into that offense, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Cal's offense. Davis Webb is going to go crazy, and I think Cal's going to upset Utah in this game. Next game, Missouri versus LSU. Missouri just is a confusing team right now. You know, they lost to West Virginia and Georgia. And then they whooped the two smaller schools they played. But I think LSU first game without Les Miles is going to be a victory. I think Fournette's going to have a really good game, so LSU should beat Missouri. Then we have Louisville versus Clemson, ranked 3 versus ranked 5. This will be a really interesting game. Seems like in the ACC, Florida State. It's been Florida State for the past few years. Clemson finally got their year. I think it's Louisville's year. I mean, Lamar Jackson has looked incredible this year, and I think he'll do just enough to get by Clemson. I think Clemson's a lot bigger task on defense than Florida State is, but I think Lamar Jackson will find a way, get a close win against Clemson. And then last game, I have Arizona versus UCLA. The game is in UCLA. Arizona doesn't have Anu Solomon. I think Josh Rosen will have his best performance of the season so far, so I'm going to go with UCLA in that game. Anyways, those are my predictions for Week 5.